Welcome to another edition of It's a Long Beach Thing. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and like us on Facebook and on Instagram. We have a good show for you today. We have a very informative show about Long Beach for you today. We have 2026 mayoral candidate Chris Sweeney with us. Chris, how are you today?
I'm good, man. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I'm
Appreciate
sure you're a little busy these days, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Absolutely, yeah. I love what you got going on. I do follow your podcast. So, when you came up to me at the chamber and wanted me a guest, I was like, let's do it. Let's lock it in.
Right on, right on. Shall we get things started?
Let's go. Let's get it rolling.
Right on. So, what is your first association with this great city of Long Beach?
So I actually came up here back in 2007, going into 2008. I ran track all through high school. And then I got recruited by Long Beach State. And my first initial thought, Long Beach, because I also played football, was like, okay, well, Long Beach Poly and Snoop Dogg. What else is in Long Beach? And I had recruit trips, from different universities. And when I landed in Long Beach, I was like, wow, this place is really cool. My recruiter, they took me, we went down on the Belmont Shore and they took me by the Queen Mary. And back then, Ballast Point used to be Corey's. So, Iconics Gym used to be Yankee Doodles. It was a pool bar. So
Yeah.
it was a lot different back then, but it won me over. And just being by the beach and close to the water, I've always been a person that loves the water and grew up on the water. So the city, that's what I fell in love with.
But originally you're from South Orange County, correct?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Fontana, and then my father, when I was 1 year old, we moved to San Clemente. So San Clemente is where I initially grew up, and then I would say my freshman year of college, if I can't remember correctly, we moved to San Juan. My dad, he was so involved in my sports. I was always just heavily in sports, football, track, and he's a big supporter of mine. And he purchased the house right behind my football field. We had like this fence, and here's a goalpost to our football field, and here's a fence. And during football games, my dad had all the teachers over from my high school because my stepmom was also a teacher there as well. So, she was a teacher at the high school I went to, so Capistrano Valley High School.
So you couldn't get into too much trouble when your mom is around the corner, right?
That was the reason why I had to go there, not San Clemente.
Right.
So yeah. So she kept an eye on me, and I give her so much credit. She's my stepmother, but I refer to her as my mother. She's been in my life since I was 2 years old. She's from Costa Rica, so my dad went down there on a surfing trip slash fishing. Met her down there, and that's how my little sister was created. And so she came up here and she actually just became a citizen not too long ago. She went through the whole visa process, and she's been a teacher in Southern California for, gosh, I want to say we're going on maybe 30 plus years now. She was teacher of the year twice in her district, and just an incredible person. Does a lot for, she's an ELD coordinator, so she does Spanish for Spanish speakers.
So I'd like to get into all that, but I want to first get into your athletics.
Yeah.
You said that your dad was into sports. Was he an athlete growing up as well?
He played football. He's a big surfer. My
Okay,
dad was a big
that's
time
an
surfer.
athlete.
Yeah, and he had me very young. He had me, I want to say my dad was 20. So, once he had me, he was full on board with his career. He went put himself through school for he's a HVAC contractor. So he did HVAC, as far as I can remember growing up, and my dad was a hard worker. People, when they hear, oh, I grew up in San Clemente, back then San Clemente was different. It was a lot of blue collar workers, and
Yeah.
it's a lot different today. It's night and day for what it was back then. Yeah, I remember we drive around a little white pickup truck with a trash bag on a window because he couldn't afford to get his window fixed. And,
Wow.
it was just hard work. My entire family I grew up with, really hardworking family. My grandfather was a professional fisherman. So he was a captain on boats actually out here in Long Beach. So he did charter boats out here for a long time. Just hardworking people that I grew up around.
So I would imagine, my background is a mindset coach for athletes. So I'm really interested in your background as an athlete. I would imagine growing up, you probably played all the sports, not just football and track. I would imagine you played basketball, baseball, the whole bit?
No, I mean, so
Oh.
I played baseball for a little bit and I just hated baseball because I'm very active. Like I need to run around 24/7, do all this stuff. And I remember as like a little kid, I'd be out in the outfield and I'm sitting in the grass picking stuff. My dad's yelling at me, stand up, get ready. I'm like, nothing's coming out this way, And then I remember I got pegged one time in the face from a pitcher, and that kind of like it wasn't scared, but it was like, gosh, I don't. This ain't my sport,
Uh-huh.
And I go from pegging in the face to a full body, putting me in Pop Warner football at 6 years old. So I was playing tackle football from when I was 6 years old all the way till my senior year in high school, and then I didn't run track until my sophomore year in high school. And I started breaking all of our league records. I broke, yeah, broke two league records, and then I was running varsity at a young age, sophomore year. And I remember I was undefeated all the time in Orange County until I got to like CIF, where I would get humbled and race against guys from like Long Beach Poly or Taft, Jordan, Inglewood. So
Yeah.
track was my sport. It was a cool experience, and I built a ton of relationships from guys that I raced against, guys that I raced with in college, and to this day, we still talk. A lot of the guys.
That's fantastic. Well, when you were growing up playing Pop Warner at six, obviously, you and I look like we're close in age there. So during that time period of playing tackle football, it was something that a lot of people did, and then there was kind of a stigma, and kids were not playing. They start playing flag until high school. So my question to you is, when you were 6 years old and growing up and Pop Warner playing tackle football, or were you one of the smaller kids, middle sized, bigger kids? Where did you rank up as far as size concerned growing up?
Football is different today than what it is back then. There's so many different leagues out there right now,
Yeah,
but you were as a kid, you were kind of age with your group with your age, but also weight class.
yeah,
You know, and then there's different leagues back then, but yeah, I remember I was usually like the smallest one, but I was the fastest one.
yeah.
I was me and my buddy Nick Provencio, who are still good friends today. He raced in college against me, but we were always racing each other,
Uh-huh.
in football. And I've been cracked a few times. I got
I
knocked out on
bet.
TV one time. I was a kick returner in high school, and I got knocked out during a game.
Whoa.
Uh, yeah, where I was like dazed, and two, I think it was like, two plays later, I went in there, threw me a deep ball, and I caught a touchdown. So that was but I was done. I was concussed. I shouldn't have went into that game after, but it's dangerous. It's a dangerous sport,
Yeah.
And that's why today's league, they have all these like, paddings differently now. Helmets are way different back, what they are today, and just all the technology too to the fields that you play on to absorb the contact on the ground, all the new rules and regulations that they have for like kick return and all that stuff. That's protected players. So
So I'm assuming then, with what you're saying, is you were a wide receiver.
yeah, I was a wide receiver, slot receiver, DB, kick returner, punt returner, anything that I can use my speed on. They put me in there.
So when you were playing in high school, and obviously it sounds like you were a pretty good player, did you have any aspirations to continue your career into college?
Yeah, it's funny because my senior year, I didn't get the ball a lot. No offense to my quarterback, but we didn't really have a great quarterback for our school, and we were competing against like Mission Viejo at the time was a powerhouse before modern day, and
Was Mark
same.
Sanchez on that team where you competed against Mark Sanchez?
So Mark was 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so I played against Mark. Mark threw two touchdowns against me. Keegan Grogerty was a receiver. Conrad Rulon, those guys, the Rulon brothers, they would pick on me because I was a 5'10" DB, and this guy's like 6'6", and
Yeah.
uh, but I didn't know what college wise. I knew track was probably going to be my way in, for
Okay.
D1. Palm Beach State was a Division 1, school, and
Yeah.
football I probably could have gone maybe D3, D2, but
Or go to a
I want to,
JC.
yeah, or JC, and all my buddies are going to JC, and there's nothing wrong with going to junior college and building your craft up, and going to a different university and get that exposure. But I wanted to go straight in, so I
Okay.
chose D1 of being track and field.
Talk about that pressure from track and field in high school to competing in a D1 atmosphere.
Oh, it was crazy. So, my teammates, like we had guys from Houston, we had a guy from Inglewood, Texas, people from Texas, Oakland, the Bay, all over,
Mhm.
right? When you're in high school, you're just racing against kids from like, your local high schools. And I remember I got on the track and we had a really solid squad. The guys just came back from winning a conference championship the year prior. We had a lot of Olympic hopefuls on the team. One of my teammates, Kenny, went to the Olympics for the hurdles. We had shot putters and all that stuff going in the Olympics. But I had something to prove. I was this kid from the beach cities, and who's this kid, coming on the track? And I remember our first tryouts, I dominated it, so it got me some respect. He used to run with a shaved head, gold chain, sunglasses, and a speed suit, and
Yeah.
the guys would give me shit. My first race, he's my mouth, but my first race, we raced against SC at an invitational, and I won that race, and I was a freshman.
Oh,
And so that's when I started getting like the respect from my teammates, and I'm a freshman. These guys are older than me, and
yeah.
um, but I was a hard worker. I've always been like that. I was always the first one out there, last one out there. You talk to my coaches today, and they'll say like Chris was, a very, very hard worker. And sometimes I overdid it. I knew no other way but to go all in, just, grinding out till the wheels fall off. And sometimes it wasn't healthy, but that's just how I'm programmed.
So what events did you run?
I did 4x4 relay,
Okay.
400 meter and 200 meter.
Okay. Oh,
And
so
then
you were the quick guy.
yeah, so in an event, they also wanted me to try the 800, but I didn't want to train the 800 at the time. We had the number one and number two guy in the conference, or actually in the nation, in our conference. So, I didn't want to place third and go against these guys dropping 143, 144 when I could have gone 146. Just
Yeah.
wasn't didn't want to run the 4.8, so I ran the four.
I have a lot of athletes that are in track, and you can really relate to this because that was your sport. They're living and dying by that clock. I mean, they could be on a roller coaster. They hit their PR, and then the next, and then they feel like that PR is supposed to be the PR, and they're supposed to go lower. They can't. In their head, they feel like once you hit the PR, you never go higher than that, and obviously that's not reality. You got different, wind and everything else, and sometimes your body is not as strong as another time. So, what kind of message would you relay to, in a high school athlete, that knowing what you know about the sport and knowing how time sensitive your sport is to help them, going through those times where they may not hit those numbers?
Sky's the limit. How much input you do on the track is what your output's going to be. I tell people this, like I said, I was the first one on the track, last one off, and then I was doing yoga. I was doing all this extra work. In fact, I was meal prepping for myself. And back then, meal prep didn't really exist. And that's
Mhm.
how Right Meals Company kind of
Yeah.
started, but nowadays colleges are a lot better with like nutrition and stuff because they understand how important that is in your, productivity and how you train. But there's so many different things that if you go out, partying the week, or how much rest you're getting, your sleep, if you're, recovering what you're eating and putting in your body. And, I tell people this, younger athletes, and I ask them what your favorite car is, and they'll tell me like, oh, I want a Ferrari. Okay, well, you know, you're an athlete, your body's a Ferrari. Okay. You're not a Prius or Toyota Corolla, you're a Ferrari. You're not going to put regular fuel into a Ferrari. You're putting premium fuel in a Ferrari. So you got to have that mindset. Whatever you're putting in your body has to be premium stuff. And that's going to help you go a long way, when you're training, when you're out there, competing, and because there's always someone out there that's working harder than you too. Always someone out there working harder than you.
But even what I'm experiencing is even if the athlete is eating right, sleeping well, working hard, even still they don't always hit their PR. So my question to you is, I'm sure in your travels there was a race or two that you didn't really appreciate the time that you got.
Gosh, yeah.
And so,
It's just
what
terrible
what
times.
what would you tell yourself after a race like that to keep you going, keep the pedal down? Because the athletes are human beings like everybody else, and they get discouraged and they get in their head sometimes, and they have these false thoughts in their head, saying that maybe they're not as good or this or that, and obviously it's just dots in the head. But what would you say to these athletes to to kind of keep that focus forward and go, hey man, that race doesn't define you.
Yeah, that's the great thing about track. It's such a mental game.
Hmm.
You be in those blocks and you can be in your head and you don't get that outcome that you looked for. But the great thing about track is you're in your own lane. You're in your own race. What you do that day, if you didn't do a great job, you still have tomorrow to, fix whatever you did wrong. And yeah, I mean, gosh, I've ran, let's say if I ran like a 47.5 or something, and then come back 2 weeks later and ran a race and I would drop like a 49. I'm like, what the heck happened there? But I didn't let it bother me. Just okay, let's just train harder. Let's go after it this week. It's the past. You can't change what happens in the past. Let's just focus on the future, what's ahead. And that's, I mean, also too, your coaching, your training strategies, what you're doing differently. It can be your coaching. It can, everybody's different. Some coaching strategy may not work, because you're training as a team, right? And that coaching strategy may not work for you personally. So that, you can start looking into individual coaching, that's what I did. I got an individual coach to help me out off site of college. Coaches were against it, but it helped me. I improved. I got faster.
Hmm. And it sounds like your mantra is kind of similar to what I tell them is there's no failure, it's data. That race, you can learn from it. There is something that you could look on the videotape and say, oh man, I stepped wrong here, or I made the wrong move when I tried to pass this person. I should have waited, or I should have done it sooner. There's something that you can learn from the race, for preparation for the next one.
Yeah. I mean, we all have heard the term run your own race. Run your own race. I'm currently running a race right now, and just run your own race. That's what I'm doing. Being a business owner, people ask me sometimes, "Oh, who's your competitors?" And I really don't look at that. We're all different. I'm just running my own race, and that's what I in college. That's what I did. And there's some times when I was running against some like top guy in the nation, right? Like, wow, I'm in the same race as this guy. So sometimes I was more watching him run than focusing on my own race. Just like this kid's incredible.
Hmm.
So there's issues, sick, situations like that where I'm not really paying attention to my own race. But
So you're in college, you're doing pretty well. At this point at Long Beach State, did you have aspirations to continue the running, or was it time to do something different?
it's like I think every pro or every athlete in college their goals to go pro. But me being realistic, that's not gonna happen. I got to drop another 2-3 seconds off my time to even consider on a team like that. I had teammates that went pro and continue to watch them with their journey, and then they got into coaching. And but no, I honestly, I think a lot of athletes, and we kind of had this discussion when I was speaking at their house, but a lot of athletes, don't know what they truly want to do after their sport's done. It's a
Hmm.
tough transition. Even like professional athletes when they're retired, it's a
Yeah.
tough transition after retirement. Like some of these people have been playing the sport since they're 6, 5 years old, and it's a tough transition. It's a it mentally can mess people up. And, I've seen people go down dark tunnels and, not come out of it. But, yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't know what I wanted to do after college. I was a sociology major, um, and I did not know what I wanted to do. And I got into real estate. So was great on phones. So I was hired to do cold calling for some pretty incredible people that are, just power horses in the game of real estate. And I was just calling all day, setting appointments, out door knocking, 200 doors a day and
Nice.
80-degree heat in a suit. They wouldn't pick me up until I did 200 doors. And, but I was a workhorse, and I just kept doing it. But the problem was in that industry, if I'm setting these appointments up, but if this agent's not closing the deal, I'm not going to make money on that because it's
Yeah.
commission based. And I was terrible at test taking. I've always been like that, even in college, even in
Hmm.
high school, even in middle school. I've just always had problems taking tests. And so I never got my realtor's license. I took the test 6 times.
You should have
Six
talked to me,
times.
man. Did you not do real estate trainers? That real estate
I
trainers,
had it
man.
all. I had it all.
You did the real estate trainers?
Oh, yes, yes,
Wow.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just, and so they just kept making me at the time that Wolf of Wall Street movie came out, right? And so they were
Yeah.
like, pick up the phone and start dialing. So I'm out there, and I'm setting appointments, doing great. Like I was
Yeah.
probably setting like 10 to 15 appointments a day with realtors in our office, just closing. And but yeah, I just and then hit some hiccups, that without making money, I wasn't able to pay my rent, or my car got repossessed. Like I hit some problems, and and then it just made you realize, like, well, shoot, I was a college athlete and we went to university. What am I doing with my life? So it's that mental transition, from that routine that you had and something to lay on, and it's not there anymore. So it was a
Mhm.
tough transition.
So after real estate, not passing the test, which sucks because it sounds like you would have made some pretty good coin on the amount
Oh my gosh.
of hard work that you were putting in. I mean, that industry, as you know, rewards hard work, especially if you're good in sales, and sounds like you are. Um, so you said, okay, well, this is not where I need to go. I want to make more money than this. Where did that take you?
So it wasn't that I needed to make more money. I was actually just struggling. There's a point where I couldn't even get to the office anymore, and so my car got repossessed.
Hmm.
So, making calls from home, but it was a struggle, and mentally it was damaging to my ego, like
Hmm.
everything. And so I was meal prepping. So this is how Right Meal started. This
Hmm.
was maybe, excuse me, 12 years ago now. And I had these meals and containers, and this realtor in this office I used to work for said, "Hey Chris, that those meals you're bringing to the office," because I was always in shape too. I was always working out.
Hmm.
He's like, "Bring that, to the office." And I'm thinking, well, shoot, my account's negative. I don't know how I'm going to get it to him. I was like, yeah, Venmo me. It was like 150, right? And I walked down to the traffic circle, down to the Rouse, get the food I needed, get an Uber, and I Uber all the way out to Diamond Bar, give him his food. Couldn't even use my cell phone because I couldn't afford to pay my phone bill, so I can only use it on Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
So then we're in Diamond Bar, and I couldn't get an Uber back. So I called one of my best friends. He's actually a captain for Long Beach Fire to this day, and we were teammates in college. And I was like, "Hey, Rich, I can't get back. Can you help me out with an Uber back home?" He's like, "Yeah, I got you." Get an Uber back. And then the place I'm staying at got on Wi-Fi and had all these notifications on my phone from this photo this guy posted. And that's what started Right Meals. And then, I kept getting all these messages from people like, "Chris, can I, order from you too?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I had no idea what I'm doing, no culinary experience. The food looked like dog food, but the people were supporting it. And
Yeah.
here I am in my house kitchen, and just cranking out. Like at this time, I'm doing like, I think it was like 80 meals at the time, which was a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, and I remember I raised enough money to get my car out of repossession. So I got my car, and I remember getting into my car, driving back from Fontana, and Richard takes me out there, and he's following me, tailgating me all the way back home because my tags were expired. I'm like, with
Mhm.
my luck, I'm gonna get pulled over on the way back to Long Beach, and something's gonna happen. But we
Yeah.
make it back, and I remember breaking down in my car, and I'm like, okay, do I continue this real estate journey, or do I continue this food thing I'm doing out of my house kitchen? No idea what I'm doing, but hey, it's paying the bills, it's putting money in my pocket, and it's making me, I'm able to like live life, and so I stuck with that. And here we are in the kitchen, just cranking out food, and continue. People are showing up, picking up orders, the house, and again, no idea what I'm doing. No, I had no idea what health is or any of that stuff, right? It's completely illegal, and just kind of it just gave me a purpose,
Yeah.
and I just kept doing it, and people were supporting it. People were telling me I'm losing weight. Like it was a cool little journey,
Yeah.
and this was 12 years ago. And then people started finding out, what I was doing. I had a lot of connections in Long Beach with restaurant owners because I used to work at a couple here in Long Beach during college. And I started picking brains. I started calling, chefs that I knew. I'm like, "Hey, can I sit with you? I think I create something. I'd love to pick your brain on what I should do." And that was the start of Right Meals.
When did you start to really feel like, you know what, I can really get this going, I can really step this up and maybe even purchase a brick and mortar?
So it was, I would say, like 2 years in. I used to work at the Bow House in the Bay as a bartender,
Okay.
and John knew what I was doing. He's like, in his English accent, "Hey, babe, why don't you come, check out, you got the kitchen space. You want to use our kitchen space? We'll let you use the kitchen space, And so I bartended it during the day. This is how much I hustled. Still, by the way, my car got repoed again because, it's still struggling. It was just
Yeah.
tough, And so so I'm at the boathouse. I'm at the boathouse from kind of 11 a.m. to maybe 9 p.m. bartending. And then I go into the kitchen from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. and I'm cranking out meals.
You're the
Eventually
only
some
one in
guys,
there at that point,
oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then John would pull up in his Escalade like 8 in the morning and I would get in his Escalade and do deliveries all over. I'm dropping off to like pro athletes. At this point, I'm working
So
with some
John
pretty heavy.
Morris was helping you deliver food?
I know I was taking his Escalade and putting miles on his car, putting miles on his car and
That, but that's
doing
super cool that
Oh
he allowed
yeah,
you to do
he
that.
gave me a kitchen. He gave me his car. Yeah, he was a big part of my journey. In the
Yeah.
very beginning, and we were there for a while, and then I started locking in big deals with like, I'm showing up, you know, printing label stickers and going to big agencies like Athletes First, Rep One Sports, CAA, and presenting, my meals and, just kind of selling, and I'm not selling a house, I'm selling a boxed meal, but it was, being an athlete, I still had connections with, sports, guys that are in the NFL that I used to train alongside with, that, hey, who's your agent? Can I talk to them? And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then COVID hit. And fortunately, I was blessed enough to do really well during COVID because hotels were shut down. Like all these restaurants were shut down, but we specialize in boxed meals. So there was no more buffet. So sports continued. I don't know if you remember like all the bubbles and stuff.
Yeah.
So like every team that played the LA Kings, every team that played the Rams, all these teams that were coming to LA, we were doing their food. And it was insane, like how many orders we were doing. And we were doing so well that I was like, gosh, like I want to get back. So I remember we were doing like meal pass outs, like 300 meals to like Boys and Girls Club. We were doing announcements like, hey, like come by the boathouse. We'll give you guys box meals for your families to pick up. So one thing too, like from the very beginning, I've always given back, with Right Meals. That's why it's called Right Meals, nourish your body, feed your soul. So anything we do, we try to give back to the community as much as I can. But then from the boathouse, John's like, what are you going to do when I open back up? Like, you literally have my entire kitchen right now. You have a full production.
Yeah.
COVID's not going to last forever. He's like, I was like, yeah, right. You're right. So then I went to the Grand, wedding venue over there off World Low and Grand.
Yeah.
And they approached me, and, it was a concept of me never having to do any production. They'll do it all for me and loved it, but I'm more of a hands-on person. This was my baby, so it was hard for me to just completely fully step away. It was a hard adjustment for me to do. Quality's dropping a little bit, so I'm kind of getting frustrated with the quality and so I was like, okay, it's time for me to get my own place. And that's when I came across Berlin and they found out I was looking for my own spot. And, we came up with a deal and took over. And initially I wanted to blow it out and do a commercial kitchen. No, I had literally no intention on keeping it as like a cafe, which I'm kind of, everything happens for a reason. I'm glad I didn't change anything. But yeah, and here we are at Berlin. Berlin Bright Meals, which used to be Berlin, and I've been here for now 5 years now. And since then, we've dealt contracts with like I work with Red Bull every day. Their sports facility. They're one of our clients. Work with the LA Kings, the Rams, the Raiders. Got any sports. We did an event with FIFA recently, and we're doing another one coming up. I work with Los Angeles Sports Entertainment Committee. So it's pretty cool, just starting from where it did and all the grit, all the hard work, all the ups and downs, and here we are today. And it's extremely humbling looking back on how it all started and literally grown from the ground up.
That's fantastic. You were saying we throughout this journey, so you were hiring. Sounds like you were hiring people through COVID to help you prep this food. Is that correct?
I mean, kind of. So there's a lot of guys out there that lost their jobs, kitchens weren't operating
Yeah.
so yeah, come help me out, man. I got you, paying these guys. And then we finally got a real LLC. I think it was, gosh, I'm so thrown off on years right now. But when we got our first LLC, then I was able to get like, do all this stuff the right way. Cause I had
Yeah.
nobody, it was all self-taught. Everything
Yeah.
was self. And that's when I started calling attorneys. Okay, what do I do with this? Because I'm starting to work with big companies that were
Yeah.
requesting, you know, things that we needed to work with these companies. And I was like, okay, we got to make this like this is the real deal now. I created something for myself. So here we are. And that was about 8 years ago. And started hiring employees. In fact, my kitchen guys, they've been with me 10, almost 10 years now, some of them.
How
I've
many?
known
How
some
many? How many? How many in your kitchen?
We have one, two, three, four, like roughly five, if you
Five.
include me, six, because I'm jumping in there occasionally with them.
Oh, so you to this day you still help prep food, huh?
No, no, not really. I just like
Okay.
to be in there. I'll jump in there occasionally. You got to like peek over and see what they're working on
Of course, yeah.
occasionally. Anybody's gonna do that. It's their baby. It's my
Yeah.
baby. So, but it's fun. It's just seeing the growth and these guys. They're doing a great job. I'm here now. They're doing orders as we speak. We have a couple games tonight we're prepping for, and they're all hands on. I'm like, cool, you guys do it. They get
Love it.
stressed out when I walk in. Chris, get out of here. We got it. We got it.
Well, it makes you feel good that you've created something sustainable. I mean that I think the biggest thing about when you create a business, and even if it's a successful business, a lot of times if the founder or the owner or the operator leaves, then the business collapses. But it sounds like you're building something where you can take you, Chris, out, and the operation is still operational, which is great. Which down the road, if you wanted to, I don't know, whatever you do, but it could be a sellable business for you.
Yeah, we're actually working on that right now. The last 6 months, we've been doing, dialing in the finances, like getting all these financial reports, dialed in years and years and years going back, because we're looking to sell it as a brand. We've been approached by some professional athletes. One of them, our guy Max Crosby's a big client of ours, and his manager's just saying, Chris, we don't look at you as a restaurant, we look at you as a brand.
Hmm.
And uh, that's a big, I mean, we just did an event with NBA All Star. We were partnering up with like Converse, Jordan, and Nike, doing events with them, and you know, they recognize us as a brand. Right Meals is a brand noticeable within all the top agencies in the world. Wasserman, CAA Sports, Athletics First, all those guys we all work with. So
Fantastic. Well, let's transition a little bit because I'm sure you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing here in June. I first want to talk to you about because I was at your event and it was a real good event. And one thing that stands out about events like this, events that you did, and events that I've done that I've gone to similarly. I went to 4 years ago. I went to Susie Price's events and it was a similar thing where you had it at somebody's house and you had some time to kind of talk about your platform and have the neighbors and people in Long Beach kind of talk about their grievances about current administrations and what can be improved from the city. And one thing that always stands out in my mind, and obviously you're actually doing something about it, you're taking action, is we you're one person, and I know that you're going to create a team with this, if you do get to be mayor, you're going to create a team and you'll have people around you. But I feel like, yes, you will have a team, but it's the community that needs to also change. Like we had people talking yesterday, and my thought process is always like, well, what are you doing? I always think about like JFK saying, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Also, Theodore Roosevelt talking about the man in the arena. It's not the people that are on the sidelines, jeering and booing and cheering you. It's the person in the arena that's actually doing something, that's taking the slings, that's taking the punches, that actually is creating something and putting themselves out there for failure. And those are the people. Those are the things that change the community. With all that being said, what let's start here because I'm a very positive person. What do you like? What's going well in Long Beach?
we have a great city. It's a beautiful city. It attracted me for many reasons. Uh, you know, the people here, the culture here, everything about Long Beach is such a melting pot. There's you can meet someone from all over the world here in Long Beach, and that's what's great about our city. The food culture here is incredible, and it's continuing to grow. All the businesses that we have here, I'm a small business owner. We all support each other too. We have the Queen Mary, we have an incredible beach, we have Rosie's Dog Beach, we have, a great university. Our school districts are incredible. Long Beach City College is one of the best city, community colleges in all of California. It's a great city. We have so much to offer, but it can be better than it is today, tomorrow. And me being a resident here for the last 2 decades, we feel that. I think a lot of the people that I've talked to, I don't think I've had anybody disagree with anything I said. And everybody's, I think, ready for change. We're ready to see this city better than it is today.
What made you decide, you know what, the time is now, like I just spoke about a few moments ago about taking action, and I appreciate that you are taking action. Was there something the shoe that fell that you were like, nah, I
Yeah,
need to step in and make this. I need to be a leader here and step up for my city.
yeah, the last 5 years of me having a brick and mortar here since the day I opened my doors, it's been nothing but a nightmare. I put in so much work into this, this business, and nothing was given to me. It was hard work, and not getting the support from our city, it's tough. There's a couple of things that happened. The amount of times I've been assaulted, the amount of times my staff been assaulted. I lost a tooth. I got a missing
Mhm.
tooth. Someone hitting me in the face. In Belmont Shore, I disarmed someone and slipped my hand open. At that event, but it's just constant, like, just havoc. And it's unnecessary for people that live here, and people that invest their life here that have to deal with this stuff. I shouldn't, a barista of mine shouldn't have to call me at 6:30 in the morning, scared to open up the shop because there's people smoking crack in front of my front door. It's just, it's unnecessary, and it's sad, and these people don't belong in the streets. It's a ton of broken systems right now. You see all of a sudden the city's taking actions in all these shelters and, cracking down on them. But why weren't we doing this 3 or 4 years ago? And it's time for change. And I've showed up countless times at council meetings. The public safety agenda item that Cindy Allen put on, me and Adam, who owns Partake Collective, we approached her for that item to be put on the agenda item, for
When
public
you were going
safety.
to see meetings at the time, was it before you were thinking about running?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
all before. And I'm just sitting up there, and it's like, God, it's showing up to coffee hour. People are on their phones up there. They're not engaging. Are you really listening to what the people who elected you in here to do for them? The
Mhm.
decisions that you're making are for us. And it seems like the decisions that a lot of leadership makes, it's for their next step and their next political, gain or whatever they're going to do in the future. And it was frustrating that we weren't getting support, we weren't being heard, and not just as a small business owner, but as a resident of Long Beach too. It's we deal with stuff with public works, we deal with stuff with homelessness, and it's just where's the standards and the common sense from our leadership right now? And showing up nonstop. I even walked the city downtown with our current mayor, for a good hour and a half, and trying to point out the flaws. And it's like, God, do you not see what's going on in our city? This is crazy. And, just being ignored too. The people
When you
are
were walking with the current mayor, what was his reactions, or what was his answers to your questions when you were pointing things out to him?
Lincoln Park, it's a beautiful park, but I mean, it has its issues. This is a
Hmm.
park where kids are hanging out, and you got people, doing openly using drugs, and just happened to be that they power washed the whole parking area near the library, knowing that we were probably going to walk around,
Hmm.
and then just 2 days after we walked around, somebody got shot at Lincoln Park midday.
Hmm.
And then also, the businesses on Pine, it's a ghost town,
Hmm.
and here we're seeing this lady, she's fully unclothed, breaking stuff, throwing things at Sevilla's business, and somebody's going to show up and have to open up those doors and deal with that, and it's that didn't phase him. Him seeing that, and I saw his reaction to that really, really bothered me.
Hmm.
There's just no reaction to that, and I'm the one that called the cops right there, and it was frustrating.
In front of the mayor?
Yeah.
Wow.
I even name dropped. I even told the dispatch, I'm walking around the city with the mayor, like hoping like that maybe would ignite someone to come down quicker,
Hmm.
and it wasn't the case. But it just all the issues, and it's the public safety, which seeing how many people showed up for that,
Hmm.
and people that don't go to, council meetings, business owners, property owners, residences, and it was seeing the rally that I created from that was like, okay, like, what more change can I make? I want to make our city better than what it is right now. And then I also lost respect for our city, during the fires. Right Meals, we partnered up. People from all over Long Beach came in, and everybody wanted to help during the fires. They just didn't know how to. And the very first day, we utilized our restaurant as a donation center. We did almost 9,000 sandwiches for all the command centers for the fires, Agora Hills, Altadena, Pasadena, and we did roughly almost 30 U-Haul trucks full of supplies. And I'm talking front to back, top to bottom, all this stuff in. I'm busy nonstop, working nonstop, zoned out, just doing all this stuff for the fires. And no one from the city reached out to me about anything. And the only reach out I got was from current leadership asking if I can do a post for their State of the City platform meeting and asking for a donation. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm not asking for monetary donations, and quite frankly, I don't even know where that money is actually going to go.
Hmm.
And it was so that was frustrating too, not having the support from the city.
So they were
And
asking you to donate to them?
they're asking me to post something with a I'm not going to name drop who because I'm just but they were going to give me a script to say for to re raise donations for Cal Fire and stuff, but
Got it.
not doing that. Sorry.
Mhm.
And they're bribing me. We'll give you a shout out at the State of the City meeting, and no, that's not what I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
So that really rubbed me off the wrong way. And then downtown Long Beach Alliance, I got nominated for some here award. I forget what the award was called, but when I got the phone call about it, the call wasn't like very enthusiastic at all to give me the award. It was like, well, do you want to accept it? Because they know how frustrated I am with downtown, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, I guess, but a little bit more enthusiasm behind, someone who just was nominated by their, the peers and the public and the people that live in the city to receive an award. It was very weird.
Hmm.
And there's people involved in this committee. I'm gonna name them Downtown Long Beach Alliance, and there's people involved. And I heard from people, yeah, there's a lot of pushback of you receiving this award because I vocalize what the people want. And people are fed up and we're
Hmm.
tired of people taking advantage of our tax-paying dollars. And that's why I stepped up.
Hmm. And how has the campaign been? Because you're obviously an outsider, right? You're not you've not went through the proper channel, so to speak, to become mayor. Obviously a lot of times there's like a protocol.
What is the problem? See, that's the problem too. What is the proper channels? Do I need to be part of the machine to be the proper channel? Do I need to start off my campaign with $300,000 that, I'm getting from PAC funds or whatever? Is that the proper channel? No. I think
Mhm.
the proper channel is you represent the people in your community, and that's what our leadership isn't doing. I mean, these people are career politicians. They never really once held a real job. They can't relate to the working class people or to people that own small businesses in here. They just can't. I don't see where you can relate to us. So what are the proper, steps to being, in this race? I hope this opens up the door for people in my position to want to step up and be part of council or be a mayor or make the change that you want to see for your city. Step up to the plate, and that's what I'm doing. And I've been getting some backlash on it, but look, I'm not a person that's going to hide behind a screen and complain and constantly bicker about what's not happening in our city. And I want to take action. I'm going to take action, and that's what I'm doing. I'm putting myself out there because I love my city and I love what this city has given to me. I mean, I've failed in the city, I've succeeded in the city. My relationships that I built in the city, I'm going to cherish forever in my life. And what are the right steps to be? I think I'm doing the right steps. I got a great team behind me with roughly 70 volunteers. We're showing up there. We're door knocking 10 hours a day. We have a great, social marketing team. I think we're doing a great job. The people know who I am, from prior things that I've done in the city, being a small business owner, being an athlete here, being, a resident here for 20 years. I'm not somebody that's just coming under a rock and saying, here, I want to represent my city. No, it's someone who just wants to see change happen in this city, and that's what I'm doing.
Let's talk about the issues that burden the city of Long Beach, and the first two that come to my head, and they're related. They're a lot related, but let's start with homelessness. Obviously, that's been an issue prior to this current mayor's administration. This has been going on for a long, long time. There hasn't been anything done about it. As a mayor at your level in Long Beach, that does come with power, but you're talking about a problem that's not just a problem in Long Beach, but it's the state of California, if not the United States. So, what can you do at the local level of Long Beach to help that problem?
So, I mean, first off, it's accountability and transparency with these shelters that we currently have. You know, showing up to these shelters recently, I'm seeing that, for example, First to Serve Shelter, they just lost their contract with the city, and they've had the contract for quite some time now, I think since 2021. But one of the shelters that they had 78 units, and roughly 12 of those units were occupied. In a year and a half that they've been open, they've only successfully put 6 people in permanent housing. That's a failed system right there. So what is the city doing to stepping into these shelters that they currently have to hold them accountable, making sure that we are getting people off the streets and putting them in a house or into a shelter. And then also, we need a graduation program established with these people. You just can't pull someone who's been living in the riverbed for 5 years and then putting them into a luxury in hotel in a unit by themselves. There needs to be a graduation reformative program to build them up to that level, and then get them into permanent housing. And then also, just partnering with different agencies within the state. From what I understand, our current, I'm going to name drop Paul Duncan, doesn't allow AA services in city-owned shelters, and people rely on AA for sobriety and getting them back into society as a normal person. And also too, where's our money going to get these people off the streets? The mismanaging of funds. There's people out there that are doing more work than our city is, getting people housed, getting people, back to their homes. I love the idea what the mayor of San Francisco is doing right now, where he is finding out, where these people are actually from. A lot of the homeless people that we have in Long Beach, a lot of them are not even from Long Beach. And how can we get them back to where their homes? Get in touch with their families, and if they agree to take them back, we partner up with the social service out there in, let's say, Montana. Like, hey, John Doe wants to go back home. Do you accept him to go back home? Yes, okay, we'll buy you a plane ticket to go back home. We're mismanaging our funds in our city, and it's like putting $1 million fence. I say $1 million, it's roughly 850, but it's going to go up. Think about how many people we could have gotten off our streets with that money used to build a fence around the library. It's just mismanaging of funds. Reformative programs. That's what we're missing right now.
So back to the first point you make. You're saying that and I agree with you. Having a graduation system, you can't just put them in a home by themselves and expect that they're cured and they're going to do everything right, not use drugs and be a modeled citizen. I agree with that. But as mayor, do you have the authority to make that call?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, you can delegate with council, make those decisions. Partner up. I mean, we have 6 different agencies in our city that operate with homelessness, but they don't work together. I don't understand how we have these 6 different agencies, but we don't work together. We're not working together, period.
Yeah.
And that's where the accountability gets dropped.
And that leads me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is closely related. The crime you mentioned it earlier in the downtown area, and all. There was District 9. I believe they found a skull in the park. I mean, the crime, and it's not just parts of Long Beach. It's all
Oh,
over Long Beach. It's from D3, D4 to 8 to 9. Obviously, I would imagine there might be more crime in 8 and 9 than 3 and 4, but still, there is crime in 3 and 4. Um,
District 1, downtown, everywhere, you
Everywhere
know.
there's crime. Yes. So, what steps can you do to lower that numbers? Because they're high.
At the end of the day, we're understaffed with policing. We have roughly, I think it's less than 270 officers patrolling our city at a time, with nearly 500,000 people in this city. Call times, response times are delayed. Another thing too, we're not enforcing existing laws. Encampments near schools. The kids on the bikes. Impeding traffic lanes. Like back in the day, I would have got a ticket riding my bike on the sidewalk without a helmet. It's like we're not enforcing existing laws, but reason part we're not enforcing these laws because we don't have enough officers on the streets right now. I mean, look what's going on with the motor accidents. We're averaging 1.5 deaths a week right now with motor automobile accidents in our city of Long Beach. It's the high it's ever been in a decade. We don't need another traffic light. We don't need a stop sign. What it is, we have two motor cops, or actually six, but two per shift, operating the entire city writing traffic tickets. I think right there, we're defunding public safety. We're cutting back on fire resources, but we're hosting the Olympics here. We're hosting, I mean, this week when you have Grand Prix bringing in 30 plus thousand people to our city, they're taking resources away from people that live here. Public safety is being cut. And why? That's the last thing you want to cut. Our firefighters are running thin. We're building infrastructure, high rises, mid rises, all these, building, inviting, condos all over, but we're cutting back on two fire stations potentially, and, our police, they're running thin too.
Correctly, if I'm not mistaken, but Long Beach right now is running at a deficit, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're facing an $80 million deficit. We have a $3.7 billion budget. We have roughly $780 million to play with as the city itself. I mean, if you look at things that we're investing our money into, I mean, we can cut somewhere, and that's why I brought up bringing an outside source to do an internal audit of every department to see where can we cut the spending. I mean, look at what just happened with First to Serve. That's $68 million that the city was giving to this homeless shelter over a period of time, and it was just mismanaging of funds. Look at this. Look at look what's going on with the Colorado Lagoon. That's being prolonged. That should have been completed to them, I think, 2 to 3 years, and it's not going to be completed for what, 6 years now. It's going to be a total of 6 years for that to be complete, if it whatever happens, and I just think it's mismanaging of our funds. But at the end of the day, that's going to take more money from our tax-paying dollars.
and that also leads me to my next point that you're talking about, and I agree with you that they're running thin in both the police department and the fire department. I agree with that. But with that being said, they're running at a deficit, and I hear what you're saying as far as you can look at other opportunities to cut the spending, but you're going to have to. It's going to take money. It's going to take a lot of money to increase the police department and the fire department. So how do you feel like you're going to be able to find enough money to cut all these other programs to bust up that? Because that's going to take all millions and millions of dollars to
We're
boost the
not cutting.
police and the
We're
fire.
not. We're not talking about cutting programs, but what we're talking about is managing the money that we're currently dishing out. So, for example, Long Beach Mission, they did a full remodel for a unit for 12 beds or 14 beds, actually, $800,000. The youth shelter West Side that just got announced on the Long Beach Post about severing ties with them, that costs roughly $8 million to build for 14 beds. Why is something costing 8 million versus 800,000? We're giving these contracts out to companies that are just killing our wallet. These are tax-paying dollars. It's just mismanaging of funds.
So you feel that you feel confident that you're going to be able to find money to support fire and police, knowing that's going to take millions and millions of dollars to get that up.
Look at the amphitheater. Look at the music amphitheater. Do we need that right now facing a deficit? Absolutely not. We're not going to make money on that for probably 10 years. They're saying it's going to bring in $3 million annually. That's not net.
Mhm.
That's not net. Initially, it was going to cost us 14 million. That's going to go up to 21 and it's a temporary build. Do we really need that right now in our city? No. We're facing an $80 million deficit. It's great for the city. I love Snoop Dogg. I'm not against the people that are going on. I love Motley Crue and all these, but the timing's not right. Timing's not right. We got to fix our problems internally before we start doing stuff like that. I mean, finish our current projects. Finish the current projects that we have going on now.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
The more projects are prolonged, the more money that we have to dish out for them.
Hmm. Agreed. I mean, I do feel I agree with you. It's going to take money to recoup the amp, but I do feel in the long term that's going to be good
Oh yeah,
for the businesses and for the residents of Long Beach because it's going to bring in outside money. So I do like the concept of it.
yeah, yeah. Just
Um,
bad timing.
that going into kind of maybe more your wheelhouse, where you come from as an entrepreneur, a business owner, brick and mortar. It sounds like your shop is in downtown area, correct?
Yeah, we're the
So
East Village.
so with that being said, and this is kind of like the reason why you kind of started one of the main reasons why you wanted to run for mayor is all the backlash as a business owner getting permits and other things to make your business operational or other business owners making it operational. I've gotten pushback as an entrepreneur myself, pushback, in the city of Long Beach. It's not known for being the most business friendly city right now. I mean, back in the day that might have been different. I don't know, but now it's known for that. How can you change that mantra of the city to bring in? Because I feel like that is, one of the things that I love about Long Beach more than South Orange County. You go to South Orange County, and it's a lot of like Chili's and big corporation box cutter.
Corporation companies. Yeah.
Everything's cookie cutter. Everything's the same. And what makes Long Beach so cool is because you have a lot of mom and pop shops, food places that's only in Long Beach, and that's part of the charm of Long Beach. How can you bring back that mantra to bring in new businesses and new food and new innovation into Long Beach so it thrives in the business community?
So it shouldn't take 3 years for a small business to open up their doors in this city. They just posted, Public Works posted a video, which was a slap in all of our faces. It was, oh, how easy it is to open up in Long Beach. Here, go here. You put in your application. You do this. Oh, if it was that easy, but you are cutting, the city just cut back on four inspectors for fire. We have a fire inspection, we have a health department inspection, public works inspection, HVAC inspection, plumbing inspection, electricity, all these inspections, but they don't even work together. So if I'm delayed on a health department inspection because I have to wait for fire to come and inspect me, okay, so there's just too many umbrellas to open up the doors for a business, and my neighbors are currently dealing with that right now. Trying to open up their doors. And I just met a business owner last night when I was at dinner. I asked him, "Hey, you guys open yet?" Because this guy's been trying to open up for 3 years and they're not open. And in a city that says, "Oh, we're very supportive of small businesses," you're not. You're not. The process shouldn't take 3 years to open up. So my initiative is to streamline the process. Let's streamline businesses to open up. Look what San Francisco is doing. They're streamlining the process by 6 months. It shouldn't take this long. You want to raise sales tax, but you can generate natural sales tax revenue if you fulfill these vacancies that we have. Pine Avenue is a ghost town right now. It's a ghost town. Look at all the vacancies. You go down Pine Avenue, Northtown. They're neglected too. They're feeling neglected, and that's where our current leadership is from. You go up and down, Belmont Shore. You have, vacancies left and right sometimes, and then, the company that I talked to yesterday, he was telling me all the hiccups they're going through. It's ridiculous of how many obstacles we have to go through to open up our doors. How broken the system is. I want to give you an example. So there was an inspection scheduled for somebody. I'm not going to name drop this business because I don't want to put it in the spotlight, but they wanted their workers to come in on a Saturday and Sunday to get things done. So they scheduled an inspection on Friday. Public Works told them that it would be after hours, so we're going to have to charge you $1,400 for an inspector to come after hours. Well, that inspector came at 2 o'clock, signed off everything within 30 minutes, and they still were charged for that $1,400 fee.
Mm.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
So
We support small business Saturdays, right? Well, where's that support year round? Where's the support year round from our city leadership? There's no fight for us.
So that being said, what are the changes that you can make as mayor to help those things that you pointed out?
Streamline the process, condense it underneath one umbrella. There's too many different agencies that we have to go to just to get a permit. Cutting resources, like cutting 4 inspectors for fire for new build. They didn't announce that to anybody. The fire inspector told me that directly. Sorry, you can hear construction going on currently right now with our neighbors. So, and then just streamlining the process. It shouldn't be that difficult. Having these different agencies work together, they're not even working together. And half the time you call, somebody's on, I'm on maternity leave, or so you can't send that packet to somebody else in your office. No, they don't do that. It's just a broken system. It's frustrating.
Hmm. Yeah, I imagine so, and I'm really glad that you're in the race again. I've echoed this a few times. I'm glad that you're taking action. It sounds like uh, you're the type of citizen that we want here. That like we talked about, that's not a career politician that has some real life work. I mean, man, you overcome a lot financially, and you know what it takes. You know what it takes to come from failure to success. So there's a lot of stuff that you'll be able to take from your life lessons in business and life and add it into when you become mayor. Um, is there anything that you would like to add that we haven't discussed that you want to share with our viewers?
No, but I just that, I'm the person that just truly cares for what the people in the city truly want. I'm not making decisions based on, what the next step in politics is. I'm not a puppet, I'm not a pushover. And people that know me know I'm a person of action. When I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. I wouldn't be in this position where I'm at today if I wasn't that type of person. And I just, yeah, genuinely just care for this city. I love this city and I just want to make a difference, and I have a great support behind me, rallying behind me. And it's incredible to see. It's incredible to see when people want to see change happen, and they'll make it happen. I think people are fed up. They're fed up with how our current leadership is. It's time for change. And go ahead.
And if people wanted to donate to your campaign or put up a sign in front of their lawn or get involved and volunteer, how would they do it?
So just go to our website, sweeneyforlb.com. We have a donation link down there. And honestly, donations are like we love donations right now because we're going against a machine. This is a grassroots campaign, and the donations help with our lawn signs. We're almost out of them, actually. We've already passed out a majority of them. Flyers, our website, marketing, our meet and greets, hosting meet and greets at restaurants and all that stuff. All those donations matter. And yeah, you can just go to the website, sweeneyforlb.com. If you want to host a meet and greet at your house, I've been doing those, pretty much every day. Speaking to as many people as I can, answering as many questions as I can. And like I said yesterday to you guys, Paul, I'm not a career politician. If I don't have the answer for something, I'm not going to give you, an answer that I just think is the right answer. No, I want to give you the right answer. I want to go and do my research and make sure I give you the proper answer to that question you asked me.
Chris, I appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, so thank you for spending an hour with me to go over these issues that I can tell by the passion in your voice and the energy in your body that these are near and dear to your heart. So I really appreciate that. But before I let you go, other than the right meals, what are places you like to eat around town?
Oh man, I'm a creature of habit. So let's see. Oh man, I've always loved Nick's. Nick's is like my go-to spot. I've been going there since day one. Um, God, it's a tough question. There's so many good spots in Long Beach. Um, I love Belmont Brewing Company, sitting out there on the patio watching the sunset. Let's see. That's a tough question, man. It's a tough question. Sushi Kara is my favorite sushi spot. Little hidden gem in the
Where's
same parking
that?
lot as Lowe's. It's on Bellflower, and between right before Warlow or right before Spring. It's in the same parking lot as Lowe's. Great family owned business.
Really? Really?
Sushi Kara.
I drive by there all the time. So you go a little bit further on Bellflower, you're hitting the bicycle shop and 24-hour fitness, right? It's right before that, right?
Before that, so it's
Where the
before
Denny's
you
parking lot is?
Denny's parking lot to the right.
Okay, but there's a Togo's.
It's right next to the Togos.
Okay,
Sushi Kara.
I've seen it. How long, how many, yeah, you know how long that's been in business?
I've been going there for 5 years now, so I don't know, but they're great people. They greet me every time I walk in. They know what I want to order. I just love the service there. And then also, there's a restaurant, Chez Bacchus. I always butcher the name. Chez Bacchus. It's on Fourth. They're right around the corner from us. It was the best service I've ever experienced in a restaurant in Long Beach. Just the attention to detail, you know, putting a napkin, giving me a white napkin, if I had white pants on. I don't wear white pants. I'm just saying, just like that type of that they provided, I was just like, wow, like this place is incredible. The food was insane. The service was, people were friendly. I'm all about, service too. So people, I'm pretty much walking to a house, they treat me as I'm walking into their home. But I think it's called Shebakis. I always butcher the name, but
What type of
yeah.
food? Is it
So this,
gourmet food?
yeah, it's like, they got Americanized steak,
Yeah,
plates, incredible soups. It's all made from scratch, farm to table. So it's really good.
right
And
on.
then
Well,
let me give you another. I'm going to give you another one.
all right,
This
do
is a
it.
great question. Places that I just, oh man. Okay, I'm going to go down the pizza route.
Okay.
Pizza Parlor is my favorite pizza.
Pizza. Where's that?
Pizza Parlor is on Clark and Wardlow, where it's where Baja Sonora is.
Oh, that's fairly new, isn't it?
And another one, Baja Sonora, another gem.
Yeah,
I love
I'm friends. Mary just sold the business, but I'm good friends
yes,
with Mary.
great family. But yeah, Pizza Parlor. I'm. It's hard for me to not drive by there and pull in and get a pizza. I'm a big pizza guy. I got a healthy restaurant, but I like a balance.
Absolutely, you gotta live your life a little bit, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Right on, Chris. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I wish you the best of luck and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Happy Friday.
It's been a Long Beach thing.